Yeah, good.
Yeah.
But it's actually like you're kind of hard. It's like how people see like big budget horror movies like The Grudge, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's scary, yo. Don't go in the dark. It's creepy. For you, it's like I don't want to go to sleep. I don't want to have nightmares.
That's awesome. I mean, that's music to my ears. That's all we want to do. So
completely different vision. It's really cool.
The hope is like if we can make a movie that gets in somebody's head and stays there for like several days. That's
I'm
awesome.
gonna be there for probably a month.
When that happens to me,
I got home. I told my wife, "Can you take the mirror out of the room? I want to cover it at least."
Good.
That's high
great.
praise.
Yeah.
My wife was actually bummed that she couldn't make it because she couldn't find a babysitter because she got the invite to the Oculus in Mira Mesa.
Oh, right.
So she wanted to see him. I'm like, oh well, maybe next time.
Yeah.
My first question for you is, for Oculus, would you want to just brushing your teeth in the mirror and be like, oh, make a movie about a scary mirror? How did the...
Kind of, yeah. I mean, over a long period of time, I think. Like, I was the kid who, like a lot of kids, played like the Bloody Mary games and stuff like that.
I used to do that too.
Yeah.
It's BS. It don't work.
Oh no, it never works. But there's like this like, oh, what if something's different in the reflection? Like, wouldn't that just be so scary? So
true.
As I got older and would think about mirrors, it's like. It's the first thing we do every day, all of us, is interact with
the mirror.
Yeah, and we trust it completely. We're completely vulnerable in front of it, so we're doing all sorts of crazy shit and stuff. And
That's right.
and the funny thing is that our entire self-image in our head of what we look like is backwards because of that.
Yes.
But we assume it's completely normal and objective, which is why it's like sometimes you see video footage of yourself and you're like, is that what it really looked like? Because you believe the lie of the mirror, which flattens and reverses the image on you. So I just think that stuff's really kind of cool. This idea of like distorting reality, but you trust it. Like we're all trained so well to trust it. That's kind of where it came from. And the Jewish tradition of covering mirrors at funerals.
A Jewish friend of mine told me about that.
It's really something. And it's like looking at a mirror from that perspective is like, oh, this is an actual gateway, to like the land of the dead.
Something like the spirit gets trapped in the mirror and they can't rest, something like that.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty...
It's trippy. It was like... You guys believe that?
Yeah, I know. So it's like, those kind of things came together for me, and that's kind of where it all started.
That's pretty cool. Like, that just came out of nowhere in your head.
Yeah, it's like usually you start just thinking about something over and over, and it won't leave you alone. And like with Absentia, I lived across the street from that tunnel, and I would just walk by it every day, and it's like staring at it and being like, that thing just creeps me out,
Someone just came out and grabbed you when you were walking to it.
Or like I'd walk up the street and see like a missing pet sign hanging up, and it's like those two images kind of came together at one point, and it's
that's how in the movie did that.
Yeah, it's like it's usually whatever won't leave you alone for a little while. Like there's something there that you're turning over in your head. It's metastasizing almost, and you got to kind of get it out. And you can only do that by writing. So
and because I know you did Oculus in 2005 when you did the short film, and you were like, that was your first actual horror thing you ever did. So from 2005 to now, how did once it got made into an actual movie, how did you, from the short film, the writing process to make it into a full-length film, how did that come about?
It took a long time because, the short was just one guy alone in the room, and it was like, how can we make that... Yeah, it was Tim. And it was like, how can we make that interesting for 90-plus minutes?
And to make it into an actual movie, to expand on that.
Yeah, and what we didn't want to do is just, like, throw in filler. Like, it was like, it's gotta have some other gear that, like, fans of the short will be like, oh, I get the same feeling that I got watching the short, but it's a whole new story. It's got, in our case, it was like, it's got to be at least 2 stories. Okay. And it took a long time to kind of figure out that it's like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if we could merge them into one by the end and like play with time in a big way. But yeah, it took 7 years to find producers that wanted to do the project kind of in a cool and different way.
So when they took your idea, something about a scary mirror, it doesn't sound interesting, right?
No, there's a lot of like, it's about a mirror. There's a lot of that. And it was one of the things we knew going in, that it was like audiences are gonna have the same reaction to a point. So it's like the movie we build around this thing has got to just be really cool. Because if I'm sitting there and it's about 100, like you need to make something really special there. So that's why we spent so much time kind of making sure we cracked the right story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ever since you did the short film to now, you've been trying to build on it, or was it just set it aside and just came up later?
Yeah, I mean, we'd do bursts of work on it, have a discouraging meeting, and then put it aside and work on something else. And like Absentia happened in the middle there. So, but we'd always come back to it, and it was always like, as we finish a project, we'd just end up gravitating back toward it and discussing it. So.
Was there something that pushed you to keep doing horror, or?
I love horror. Yeah, I love it as a fan.
What's your favorite horror film?
I have so many answers to that. It depends, like on the day and what type of horror. But some of my favorites are like The Shining, The Exorcist, The Thing.
My brother, I finally sat him down last month to see The Shining, because he thought it looks stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, everyone in the world quotes that movie. How do you not see it? So I finally sat him down and he was like, whoa.
Yeah. What's your favorite horror?
The Shining.
Oh yeah.
The Shining. And I like Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary is one of my top 3 favorite novels of all time.
Novels?
Yeah, the book is amazing.
I finally read the book about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I saw a movie first, and then I saw it by Stephen King. I was like, had a book? So I finally got to read it. Yes, I agree. It's really good.
Love that book.
You're gonna see how much he loves Pet Sematary, because we pay a little homage in the next movie we did called Somnia, which is coming out.
I was actually going to ask you about that. Anything you can, because I know future projects can't really say much, but
we can say a little.
We can say a little bit. Yeah.
What can you say about Insomnia?
Well, it's a really different kind of horror movie. It's got some really fantastic horror elements about it, but it also has kind of this magical realism and a level of fantasy that's kind of unusual for the genre. So it deals a lot with dreams, and we were as much interested in preserving a sense of beauty with the movie as we were with horror. So it's like we would describe it early on as beautiful horror, and that's a really those are usually such contrasting aesthetics. So trying to bring them together that way was really
different.
Really
I
tough. Yeah.
kind of figured it was something to do with sleeping or dreaming, because Somnia,
Yeah.
So I was
Latin
like,
for
okay.
dreams. Yeah.
We're gonna quote you to the marketing department.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
We're fighting for that title.
Hold you to that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Why did you decide on the ending for Oculus? Go with that instead of your traditional. They come out on top, they figure out the whole thing. Yeah, because when they won't come into the movie and once about halfway in, they're like, we got to figure this out. We're finally gonna prove everything. So I kind of figured, they will, but no. It's just like.
Well, I feel like it's more honest. I feel like if you set something up and say it's this ancient evil force, and then you make a movie about it being easily defeated by usually a teenager in an hour and a half, it always feels like a cheat to me.
Yeah. It's kind of cheesy as well. It's like it's expected.
Yeah. And for this, it felt way more authentic to just say, in this particular story, the evil is stronger. There are amazing examples that I think we celebrate, within our culture when we see real world evil defeated. But more times than not, depending on your, how cynical a human being you are, evil goes unpunished. Justice is difficult to come by. We live in that kind of world where it could go either way, and there isn't a safety net. So. That for horror, I feel like if we're using the genre to kind of explore those really dark parts of who we are, why put a safety net?
Yeah. And I like how in the movie you don't really know what is the mirror, what's causing it. Is it a demon? Is it haunted? Is it possessed? What? It kind of leaves that open to the.
Did you like that?
Oh yeah. Because I was thinking, when are they gonna say what it is? When is it gonna show its true face? What's in there? Maybe the demon's finally gonna when a
tiny little door opens and a leprechaun
opens her hands for Kaylee. I was like, maybe it's gonna turn into the actual demon when she hugs her. But no, it's like, what is it? I was the whole time I was like, what is it? So
and I think because you know, when you talk about evil, it's like when you try to answer that question, it's never going to be satisfying, and it makes it less scary. So
it's better for the imagination for the viewers.
Well, it engages the audience.
Yeah.
Like, you get to put what you would put in it.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, it's like what scares you. If you believe in the devil, you know, then it's like you can go right there. If you believe in demons, you can go there. If you're terrified of antiques, this is your movie. You know, like it lets you kind of take your own insecurities and put it into it, and I think that's really fun too. So.
Why was it so important for you for the movie to be that way, to leave it open to the viewers, not actually confirming anything?
Well, I think a lot of movies, and in horror in particular, there's always a temptation to do this, like create a passive viewing experience, and people say I go into the movie to turn my brain off for 90 minutes and just enjoy, you know, whatever it is, and I think we need that too. We really need that. But I'm just more interested myself in ones that make you have to turn it on, you know, and really have to engage and become part of the story yourself, like to become an active storyteller in your own head. And I think that's really fun, because when a movie does that to me, I love it forever. And so that's what I try to do.
Like you never really know, you can't figure it out, and you're like, it leaves you on the edge, like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it lets you discuss it after.
Yes.
If we've done our jobs right, it should.
Yeah.
Because it'd be easy to say, like, you know, this is the devil's mirror.
Yeah.
Right. Like, or, you know.
And that isn't to take anything away from, like, you know, some of the most fun I have at movie theaters. Like, I, you know, went and saw Piranha 3D and had a blast, you know? Like, but it wasn't because I sat there pondering it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's room for everything. But that's just the kind of movie I like.
I have a question for you.
I'm ready.
I'm a huge fan of Rob Zombie. I love Rob Zombie. Ever since I was 9, I was using White Zombie, everything. How was it working with him on Lords of Salem?
Really fun, a little challenging, but fun. What'd you think of Lords of Salem?
Oh, it's great.
Did you like
the
it?
freaky images and like
It's an insane
like
movie, isn't
when she gets these visions, and I'm like, what the heck was that? Her rewind it. I was like, what was that? You know?
it was. I mean, he's very passionate, but he's also infectious. Like people around, like it was a fun set. He likes to have a good time on set. And he definitely knows exactly what he wants and what he's doing, which is nice for a producer. And I think the movie that he made is definitely the craziest movie we've ever done. I mean, that part of it I love.
think out of all his movies he's done, it's probably one of the most like
Out there.
Yes,
I think
it's
so,
like
too.
very like detailed and stuff, and it's like
Yeah, and the imagery is.
my wife couldn't finish it because she's like, that's too freaky. I'm like, I don't want to see it. Yes.
Well, it gets much worse if she couldn't finish it. I'm saying the last 30 minutes are really.
Yeah, that's
you know,
what
most
got me the
intense
last
part.
30 minutes. Like my wife, she only saw about like
An hour.
halfway. Yeah, she's like, no, I'm gonna go in my room, listen to music.
But it was fun. It was fun. It was actually fun to work with him.
I figured it wouldn't be easy because he's
Not
very
easy, but fun.
particular, very
particular. Yeah.
detailed in what he does.
Yeah.
And one more question about Oculus. Sure. My favorite scene was when Kaylee was explaining about the mirror and how you said that was actually the most difficult scene.
Yeah. I'm really glad to hear that's your favorite scene. That's awesome.
Because it was like very like fast paced and everything, and I got everything that she was saying. How did you come up with the history for that mirror to do all that?
That's the fun part. I mean, that's where you can just it's like jazz, like for writing. It's like you can just sit there and do whatever you want because you know that you're not going to shoot it. Because if you're like, oh, okay, died in a fire, it's like immediately you're like, well, now how do I shoot that? Because now I have to burn a building and the budget just went up and I have to. It's not like you don't have to worry about any of that stuff if you're just like coming up with backstory.
Like writing a book.
Yeah, it's just so you can do anything. So it was just like, what's the most like grotesque kind of thing I can think of, and then how do we make it worse than I thought I could? Like, like broken bones freak me out. Like let's break all of them. Like
Sledgehammer too.
Yeah. So that was just that was the most fun to write because
it was cool how you took it back all the way to 1700s. The Lasser guy, I forgot his name.
Yeah, Lasser.
Yeah, so I was like, that's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. And I think I'm out of time, so.
Oh, that was a great interview.
Hey, well done.
You got to do this more.
I hope so.
You got to do
That was great.
It'll be the first of many. It was really a good interview.
Oh, well,
I
thank
hope
you.
you did.
Well done.
I was hoping for that reaction.
Well, you did great.
Thank you.